Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk a little bit about the winner of the latest round of the Who Wants to Be a Prime Minister competition, the shiny new head boy at number 10 Downing Street. And I want to talk a little bit about his cabinet and about his plans and so on and what he says he's going to do. Before I start, though, if you haven't already subscribed and you approve of what I say, I really would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Thank you. So let's just say a little bit about Sunak's character, because what I'm saying is purely subjective. It's only just my view. But he seems to me somebody who's quite nerdy. He's somebody who I think probably loves poring over figures. He probably loves spreadsheets. I can imagine him on holiday looking at the spreadsheets. He's a guy who apparently is a great authority on Star Wars. I don't think he's somebody who has much understanding of other people's lives. I think the fact that he is wealthy is something which I've always said you shouldn't really hold against somebody. But I think when they're the Prime Minister during a time of really serious crisis for so many millions and millions of people, to be as a Prime Minister somebody who is so wealthy. I mean, he and his wife said to be worth 760 million. Well, that means they'll have an income on that of several £1 million a month probably. And if you're that rich, I mean, prices just don't count. I mean, you buy what you want. If you want a suit and it costs £5,000, £6,000, it doesn't really matter. You just buy it. You don't have to even think about money. You want to buy a new house, just buy it. And I think for someone like that to be in charge when there are people who are really quite worried about the cost of a dozen eggs or the cost of a loaf of bread going up, not sure he's the perfect person to really understand just how serious things are. Now, he was, as we all know, he was appointed unopposed by the Tory parliamentary membership on Monday, after which he went to Tory headquarters and gave a really rather odd speech. He looked a little bit like a robot, looked really quite weird. He made Truss look quite animated. But after that sort of zombie speech, next day he was in Downing Street and he gave a speech where he tried very hard not to smile, not to look happy, to look very serious. And he said in his speech, I'll read things that he's doing. This is what he promised. He promised the nation. He promised us a stronger NHS, which will cost many billions. He promises better schools, that'll cost billions. He promises safer streets, lots more police, that'll cost billions. He's promised control of our borders. I have no idea how he's going to do that, but he's going to control the borders. He's going to protect our environment. I don't know what that means really. He's going to support our armed forces, which means many more billions. He's going to level up, more billions. And he's going to build an economy to take advantage of the benefits of Brexit. I'm not sure if he's found any benefits of Brexit, and if he has, it'd be nice if he would share them with us. But these benefits of Brexit are going to enable him to invest, innovate, and create jobs. So he's obviously worked out what needs doing, and it's obviously going to cost billions and billions and billions. Now he's going to go about this by imposing a lot of cuts. Apparently, we're going to have cuts in all departments. So, not quite sure how that's going to work out, because he's got a £30 billion pound hole to fill, which was partly results of Kwarteng and Truss's efforts at running the country. And so we're going to get tax rises and cuts. Now, this is at a time when we have a cost of living crisis, which is really getting quite serious. I mean, there are more and more people depending upon food banks. They're very proud of the fact that they're limiting the rise in energy prices to 2,500 per household, but because otherwise apparently it would have gone up to £6,000. But that's only for 6 months. So in 6 months' time, we can all look forward to our bills going rocketing. And then there's the threat of strikes, because there are so many unions who are really not prepared to put up with their members getting poorer and poorer and are ready to strike, with the NHS holding a ballot now as to whether or not they're going to strike. And this seems to be a problem that is just going to grow and grow. There are going to be more and more unions going out on strike. Now, the problem that Sunak has is that he's not liked by everybody. An awful lot of people don't like him. A lot of people object to him having resigned, and his resignation leading to the demise of Boris Johnson. And so he has to be very, very careful. There's also, of course, the right-wing Taliban of the backbenchers of the Tory party who are ready to make trouble at the drop of a hat. So he's going to have to tread very carefully anyway. And it seems to me it's going to be very, very difficult for him to make any headway at all, no matter how well-intentioned he might be. Now, he's made two huge mistakes in his first, 4 or 5 days. The first is that, we all know that by far, 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 infinitely more important than anything else is climate change. We're hearing all the time how the planet is warming up and how we're getting quite close to the point of no return, where things will just, will end up burning. And all the consequences of global warming are so obvious, all the freak weather and so on, and also before very long we're going to find far more movements of peoples who can't survive any longer in their home. People in Africa and parts of Asia who are just not going to be able to survive where they are, and they're going to start moving. And so climate change is so much more important than anything else. But he's too busy to go to COP27. COP27 is being held in Egypt. Truss told King Charles that he shouldn't go there. And so because Sunak is too busy with his spreadsheets, we're going to be represented by Therese Coffey. She's going there. This is the lady who last week was Health Secretary. And she was on the radio this morning. They said, well, what are you doing in order to help combat climate change? What contribution are you making personally? And she said, well, she did that a bit. She said something about cups. She uses cups. I'm not sure whether she uses plastic cups or paper cups or whether she uses China cups. I don't know. But it was about cups. But that's her contribution. That's how much she knows about climate change, cups. So she's going to represent us in COP27, where Biden and all the other big world leaders are going to be there, but not our Prime Minister. And the other huge mistake he's made is in appointing Braverman, Suella Braverman, as Home Secretary. I've spoken before about this truly, truly dreadful woman. As I said before, I never thought there'd be somebody who'd be quite as unpleasant as Priti Patel, and she beats her hands down. She was caught sending classified documents to people, friends of hers on the right wing of the Tory party, for them all to have a chat about. And she resigned. Apparently she had a blazing row with Truss and she's resigned. But despite the fact all the security risks and so on of the Home Secretary passing around classified documents, she admitted her mistake, and so she's okay. That's all right. That's fine. I killed my wife, but I admitted it, and I said I was sorry, so let's move on. And so she's fine now. She's a Home Secretary. It's pretty obvious that a deal was done, that she must have done a deal with, as I think most people think, that she did a deal with Sunak, that he would make her Home Secretary if she supported him openly and brought a lot of the right-wing supporters with her. And again, this just shows how he's so he's in hock to the right wing of the Tory party, and so she is now the Home Secretary, and this is a scandal that's going to go on and on. People are not going to forget this, and apparently she's going to have lessons. But I think MI5 are going to give her lessons, and they're going to tell her as Home Secretary as to which confidential documents she can spread around amongst her friends, and which ones she mustn't show anybody who's not hasn't got the right level of clearance. So she's going to have a bit like when you sort of commit a driving offence, you have to go on these driver awareness courses, and they teach you very basic things about about driving. So that's our Home Secretary. How long she'll last for, well, we'll see. But it was a huge mistake, and it's done him a great deal of harm, I think. And people already have now doubts about his judgment. And I think, going back to the character of this woman, I mean, she really is, really is a nasty woman. She's the woman who said, as Home Secretary, that it is her dream and her obsession to see planes taking asylum seekers off to Rwanda and dumping them there. They won't have any. They can apply for asylum when they get to Rwanda, but they won't be able to come back, or they won't be able to apply for asylum here. So they'll just be stuck in the middle of Africa. That's her obsession. That's her dream. And you have to wonder about anybody who is quite so extreme. I mean, what is it? I'm no psychologist. But what makes her think that way? And I did see something the other day which was quite interesting. I thought I saw somebody had posted on Twitter some wedding photographs of her wedding. She married an English guy, a white guy called Braverman. And I thought to myself, well, I don't really approve of that. You know, a wedding's a private thing. You shouldn't really have it all over Twitter and so on. And I wasn't going to talk about it. I wasn't going to mention it. But then a few days later, I thought, well, I'm just going to have another look. And I couldn't find it on Twitter. So I just went to Google and Googled Braverman wedding. And suddenly all the photographs are there, the wedding photographs. She'd posted them. There's one big photograph there with all the guests, about 100 guests in this wedding. And she's at the front with her husband and two elderly Indian people, a man and a woman, presumably her parents are, stood beside her. And out of the entire group of 100 people, there are just 2 Indian faces. And I thought, this is weird. This is very weird. Does she have a problem with other Indians or people of Indian heredity? What is it that she hates foreigners so much? Why is it? I mean, her parents came to this country and had all the benefits that she's enjoyed. Is it insecurity? What is it? What is it that makes somebody so hateful? And somebody who is so hateful of other foreigners should never, ever be a Home Secretary. And then I started looking at the rest of the cabinet. Now, we all know now, without any question whatsoever, that Brexit is a disaster. I mean, nobody in their right minds can say that there have been any benefits from Brexit. There have been no benefits whatsoever. And we all know there are not going to be any benefits. They're just huge, huge disadvantages. It's done enormous damage to our economy. It's done enormous damage to the country, to our reputation. We are, as everyone keeps saying, a worldwide laughingstock. And I looked at the latest cabinet, and there are 30 members, and of those 30 members, 19 voted to remain. So we have a cabinet of 30 people, 19 of whom always believed that Brexit was a mistake, that we should have remained. Now, the suggestion they've changed their minds is completely nonsense. 19 people are not going to just change their minds afterwards, especially when it's seen how damaging and how negative Brexit's been. It's absurd to think they would all have changed their minds. What it is, they all had to say they supported Brexit because that was the condition on which Johnson insisted anyone standing in the 2019 election had to meet. They had to all say that they were pro-Brexit. So you've got 19 people running the government who don't believe in what they're doing. Almost like Keir Starmer. Talking about what make a success of it, but don't really believe in it. And what was also interesting was that of the other 11 who all voted to leave, 6 of them were children of immigrants. And there again, it's going back to what I was saying about Braverman. What is it that immigrants, why is it they're so keen to stop other people coming here? It's weird. And those 6, I mean, it's forgetting the fact that Kwarteng and Patel were also children of immigrants, and they were also in the cabinet not long ago. So you've got, as I say, out of a comment, 6 out of 11 are children of immigrants who wanted to stop immigration. It's odd. It's very odd. And so we've got this cabinet. We've got Leaky Sue. It's a name I think is probably going to stick. Leaky Sue, who's having lessons from MA5 on how not to spread confidential documents around amongst her friends. We've got Honest Bob Jenrick. He's back. Honest Bob, you remember him? He went to a dinner once and he sat next to Richard Desmond, the guy who's described by Wikipedia as a pornographer, a guy who wanted to do some property development in Tower Hamlets, and it was time sensitive. He had to get permission within 2 weeks, and he asked Honest Bob to help him, and sure enough, Bob went back to his department and asked his officials about it, and they all said no, you shouldn't do it, but nonetheless he pushed ahead and he wanted to help this guy Desmond, and he helped him get his permission. I'm not sure he actually got it in the end, but anyway, he certainly helped him. There were exchanges of messages between Desmond and Jenrick, in which Desmond kept referring to the I think he called the Marxists on the Tower Hamlets council. Desmond is a billionaire, and he was trying to avoid £45 million worth of tax or levy that he would have had to have paid had the planning permission been further delayed. Excuse me. Then also another incident with Honest Bob. He, when he was housing minister, he had a junior minister called Jake Berry, who subsequently became the chairman of the party. Jake actually is the guy who was sacked by Sunak and is now going around television studios, who was on the television the other day saying how Suella Braverman was guilty of all sorts of breaches of the ministerial code, and some of them were really quite serious. So he's getting his own back for having been sacked. But anyway, they had some fund which was given to various, was to be allocated to various constituencies where they needed help and so on. And I think they were giving 25 million to a whole number of constituencies. And on this list of constituencies happened to be, of course, Honest Bob's constituency, and also Jake Berry's constituency. And whilst they were not particularly deprived, Jake Berry gave a £25 million grant to Honest Bob's constituency, and Honest Bob gave a £25 million grant to Jake Berry's constituency. And they both said, when asked about it, they'd had nothing to do with the decision. Honest Bob said, no, I had nothing to do with the decision. It was made by somebody else. It's made by Jake Berry. Jake Berry said, nothing to do with me. No, it's done by somebody else. Made by Honest Bob. So anyway, he's back in the cabinet, and we've got Gavin Williamson as well. That's nice, isn't it? He was sacked by Theresa May because during the Huawei business, when we were concerned about them and so on, he was accused of leaking. So we got two leakers now. We got Leaky Sue and Leaky Gavin, or alleged Leaky Gavin, and then we've got Nadim Zahawi. I spoke about him last week. Nadim's the one who kept going around the television studios. Was very happy to go around the television studios talking about the anti-growth coalition. That's most of us actually who really don't want the government to succeed. We don't want to grow. We all want to get poorer and smaller and all the rest of it. Anyway, Nadim was a big fan of Johnson, and when Sunak resigned as Chancellor, Johnson stuck Zahawi in as a Chancellor. And when people started resigning and things looked a bit dodgy for Johnson, old Nadim, he thought, I better get out of here. So he wrote a letter. He wrote a letter on Treasury Stationery, and he wrote it about Johnson. And what he said, I'll just quote some of it for you. He said, this is on the 7th of July. He said, he only thinks of him. He only thinks of other people. He never thinks of himself. Yesterday, I made clear to the Prime Minister, alongside my colleagues in Number 10, that there was only one direction where this was going. That's the scandal about the resignations, and that he should leave with dignity. I'm heartbroken that he hasn't listened, and that he is now undermining the incredible achievements of this government at this late hour. Prime Minister, You know in your heart what the right thing to do is, and go now. Actually, that last sentence is some grammatically nonsense, but anyway, illiterate. So there you are. He wanted to get rid of him. Yeah, he saw everybody else was leaving the sinking ship. He wanted to be right there in the middle. On October the 23rd, when Johnson decided he might come back and have a stab at getting the Premiership back again, Nadeem says in a tweet, "I'm backing Boris." He got the big calls right, whether it was ordering more vaccines ahead of more waves of COVID, arming early against the absence of the advice of some. But now Britain needs him back. We need to unite to deliver on our manifesto. He's the one to lead us to victory and prosperity. So he's right behind Boris, isn't he? Before he was trying to get rid of him, persuade him because he wasn't any good. But later that day, the same day, the 23rd of October, this is Nadeem again, because this is after Johnson's come back and found out that he's not in fact the Messiah, and that nobody's prostrating themselves at his feet, and that in fact he's very unpopular and he's never going to be a Prime Minister again. He decided to pull out. So he pulled out, and then Nadeem put another tweet up, same day. "It's clear that we should turn to Rishi Sunak to become our next Prime Minister. Rishi is immensely talented, will command a strong majority in the Parliamentary Conservative Party, and will have my full support and loyalty." Full support. In the morning he was supporting Boris. Next day he says, "Let's unite and back Rishi Sunak for the sake of our country." So he's thinking about the country, not thinking about himself. Same day, later in the day, he says, "The United Kingdom is a place where you can achieve amazing things. Under Rishi Sunak, we will never stop helping people make their British dream come true, regardless of their background. Congratulations, Rishi." Next day, all his efforts are repaid. "It's a great honour to be appointed chairman of the party. I look forward to supporting Rishi." And this is the problem. This is the problem we've got with this government of just second-rate nobodies. They just are so utterly useless. And frankly, I don't see Sunak's got any chance whatsoever of pulling things around. It's just things are just too bad. Things have gone too far. He, I think, is completely out of touch. The financial situation is desperate, and it's just a joke. Not a very funny one. Anyway, that's what I think. If you've watched this far, thank you very much for watching. And if you're interested in my book, it's available from my website, ml44.com. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing, if you approve what I say. And until next time, bye for now.